Live on the WHOW WEZC DeWittDailyNews.com Facebook page and on the new WHOW TV YouTube channel. Watch morning show host Seth Lawrence interview guests live, as well as watch archived video podcasts of any interview you missed. Whether on Facebook or YouTube, we're providing two more ways that Central Illinois' local news station, WHOW, delivers compelling content for you.
News time is 7 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Last week was an irregularly contentious meeting of the Clinton Board of Education and parents over the accessibility of playground equipment at Clinton schools. The contention of Tyler and Brandy Smith is the district is not doing enough for its students with special needs to be able to have access to playground equipment at its three schools. Superintendent Kurt Nettles says he feels for the students who cannot get around and do all the things of their peers, but notes they do what they need to accommodate those students.
Yeah, the board was visited at the August board meeting by a family who was requesting that we look at the surfacing of the playground at CES specifically, so that child that has special needs can get anywhere that child would want to get to on the playground with a wheelchair or a walker or whatever the case may be. Our playgrounds have the fiber wood, or I don't remember the exact way to describe that, but it's legal fill, loose fill. That's not the best thing in the world for somebody who's using a walker, roller walker, or wheelchair, or some kind of equipment like that. Can they get across it? Yes. With difficulty, yes. Turning on it, not the greatest. So, like I said last night, I surveyed 20 superintendents last week, and so it was, no one has these types of paved playgrounds. It's excessively expensive. We have as good or better a playground than the superintendents I talk to. CES is one of three playgrounds, and it's our feeling if you're going to do anything, you have to do it to all three. But we are keeping tabs on the students who have special needs or disabilities in all of our buildings and seeing what do we need to accommodate those children at any given time or for any given program, and we're maintaining that. I think Clinton School District has had a number of special needs disabled students over the years. I've been here 9 years. I've had a number of students, and we make sure we're accommodating everything that they need to do. That doesn't mean we can make every single thing that goes on throughout the day for them as easy it would be for me to get along. Playgrounds are an issue, and I see that and understand that, and I feel for some kids who can't do the same things as a lot of the rest of the kids, and that is a shame. At CES, if people aren't aware, we did create pathways that a wheeled vehicle, whether it's a roller walker or wheelchair, can get down and get right to equipment.
One of the allegations against the school district is that the playgrounds are not compliant with ADA standards, which Nettles explains is often a misunderstood requirement.
First of all, there's a misunderstanding about ADA compliance. There's ADA compliance for this building we're sitting in. So it's not the same ADA compliance as a playground. Any place that's built new or any renovations you do, you have to bring it up to code at that time and make it ADA compliant. Standards have changed on playgrounds and things of that nature. So it's, we don't have to go back and redo Douglas Playground, but I know over the years changes have been made here and there to make sure everything's still safe and holding together well and all that, and we keep the stuff underneath it safe, so if kids fall, what they call the fall zone and things like that. So to say that a playground is going to be ADA compliant to the same point that CES, the building itself, is ADA compliant, I think is a misunderstanding that people have. One with most any kind of handicap can go into our school buildings and be okay. You know, CES is multiple floors. We have an elevator. We have ramps. We have this and that.
The upcoming renovation of the high school football field and other athletic facility improvements in the last few years have come under scrutiny from those advocating for improvements to playground equipment. But Nettles points out those projects have taken several years of planning, and planning for a playground equipment improvement requires equal consideration.
The responsibility that a Board of Education takes on, 7 elected people in our communities, they take on a planning and a budgeting and funding scenario that is in the works over a couple of years. We had always felt like our playgrounds were suitable and could be updated or accommodations made if necessary. But the playgrounds, 2 of them being really fairly new, were never a conversation on the facilities plan. They weren't. A lot of other things are, and we'd be happy to give a copy of our facilities plan to anyone that would ask for it. We've talked about it openly at board meetings a lot. You and I have talked about it here quite a bit. I think it's probably been in the journal a little bit here and there over time. So that's been out there. Like I said last night, in my comments last night at the end of the meeting, we started that plan 2 years ago. And in earnest over the last year and a half, we've started the projects. And so that's a lot of planning. The architects are involved, engineers are involved, trying to figure out the funding, and all that's been involved. You have to balance the responsibility of all the money that we have and what we have to spend and how we spend it. We have different funds, and you can only use money from certain funds to do these types of projects. So you can't look at our entire bank balance and say, you've got all of this money. Spend some of it here or spend some of it there. The work that we're doing is coming from the operations and maintenance fund, which is not flush like the education fund. We also have to finance some of the projects that we're doing. Health, life, safety bonds we did not long ago. We'll probably do the district will do some other bonds probably in the next year or two to help with some other projects that are going to come up. This money is financing we can pay off pretty quickly at lower interest and get everything finished, and we can afford to do that. But again, it's a planning scenario, and it's figuring out the funding and not extending ourselves. We do have money that's invested, and when we do some projects, we have to make sure we pull that out and make sure it's liquid at a certain time. So a lot goes into it. The playgrounds were just not a part of that planning, and so the board, and I agree with this, the board needs to work through the plan that they have in place, but they do need to review it, and they do need to keep things. I don't think there's an end to the facilities plan. What I think happens probably a year from now is, hey, we're getting pretty close to the end of what we've planned and financed. What's ahead? Maybe there's a variety of different projects that are ahead, and the board and Mr. Goebel will take a look at that.
It was suggested to the Clinton Board of Education last week that the district and community work together to fundraise for this effort. Nettles says personally he does not like that idea because the community already pays taxes into the school system for things like playgrounds and facility maintenance.
I don't want to go to a community. This is Kurt Nettles talking. I'm not speaking personally for every board member. We levy taxes every year. You pay property taxes. If you own property in DeWitt County or this school district, you pay property taxes. We utilize it to do a lot of the things we've just talked about. Then to come on top of that and ask the community to give and to fundraise and to do this and that is really on top of what they're already paying in property taxes, which we're taking and trying to be as responsible as we can and think things through and plan and use that and leverage that the best that we can without raising your property taxes. To raise a couple of $100,000 is a huge effort. I just don't want to go and ask the community to do that. And it's possible within the next year and a half, that there might be a question on the ballot for the 1-cent sales tax. I mean, how much do you keep doing? I get uncomfortable with the smaller fundraisers that the kids do a lot of times. I just don't think you keep going back and back and back to the community.
There is frustration on the side of the parents at the Board of Education is not communicating with them about this. Nettles says the activity on social media kept the topic on the board's radar, but he also says there have been other one-on-one conversations that have taken place.
We have public participation in our board meetings. The board is very willing and welcoming. And I think in August, when the Smith family came and talked to the board was very gracious and kind to them. They never said, yes, we're all in on this. They listened. They discussed among themselves. I know they've all had one-on-one conversations, and some of them have talked to me about it too. It never left their mind. And part of that is because there was more information put out on social media, too. We had to think about it. There were a couple of board members that spoke with the family, not at a board meeting, and tried to answer a couple of questions for them. So there has not been zero communication. They wondered why I didn't contact them and correct with them the report that WCIA did in an interview with me, which I said publicly last night was a hatchet job, because they cut out more than half of what I said in the interview and made it sound like, here's $370,000 we're going to spend to make it look real nice, which was total opposite of what I said. It's not my responsibility to email the community and correct what a news agency misreported, misrepresented. It never crossed my mind to contact them and do that. So if I'm emailed directly or called directly, I respond to everything, always have, and I will meet with just anybody that wants to meet with me. But a scenario, just trying to commute back and forth in a public participation session, is we've got other business to tend to as well. So we had to get to that last night as well as we did in August. So
Nettles indicates he has not been contacted by anyone seeking an inspection of playground equipment, and also points out the district's insurance inspects the equipment a couple of times per year and has seen no major issues that needs correcting in those inspections. A DeWitt County Schools leader is encouraging its parents to participate in the 5 Essentials survey through the state of Illinois. On the WHOW Morning Show Monday, DeLand-Weldon School Superintendent Dr. Michael Tresnick told Regional Radio the 5 Essentials survey is administered by the Illinois State Board of Education in conjunction with the University of Illinois, Chicago.
Sure. So that opened up in January. The state board does it through University of Chicago. And I'm going to try to send some stuff out to our parents later today. But it was in our newsletter, and it's on our website. Students take a survey, the teachers take a survey, and then we ask parents to take a survey. And what we're trying to get to is at least get 20% of our parents, 25% of our parents to take the survey. And the data is collected to kind of formulate long-term planning and short-term planning, how to do improvements, what we do here. And, the state takes a look at that, and then we get a report back, kind of getting a feel of where parents think we're at. So it's important information. It's done every year, and one thing we like to do is look at it from year to year and see if there's some areas that are coming up that are of a concern. Then we try to do some things to address those concerns, and then hopefully in the subsequent year, when we do the survey, we see that concern maybe doesn't come up because we've done things to address it. It's important to us, and we like to see our parents go ahead and complete that survey.
According to Dr. Tresnick, the district wants to hear from parents on where they can improve.
I look at, we get the report from the state, and we look at various things that come into that report. And like I said, if we see some areas that are showing to have some concerns or deficiencies, then we like to look at that and see if, is it something that we feel the survey just didn't hit right, because this is a survey that they're using statewide. They're using it in large school districts, and they're using it in small districts, and it's not really different for anyone. So sometimes some of the questioning doesn't necessarily apply and can skew it a little bit because it just doesn't match up with what we are as compared to a very large school district. But at the same time, we look through it and we see if there's some things that it's flagging out, then we're going to look at those and see if we can address those, or is it a short-term fix, or do we need to do some long-term planning?
Dr. Tresnick says he'll be sending out reminders to his families this week to implore them to take the survey. They hope to see around 20 to 25% participation in this year's survey. News time is 21 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Plenty more coming your way next on the WHOW Morning Show.
Take advantage of leap year. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Yes, we have an extra day this month. So come see our inventory of Chevrolet Trailblazers, Blazers, and the all-new Chevy Trax. It's a sharp, redesigned 5-passenger and affordable front-wheel drive. We also have a larger 7-passenger Traverse and a good selection of Tahoes. Use your extra day wise. Shop us online to see all our inventory. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time 22 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Illinois farmer Kenny Hartman says serving on the planning committee for this week's Commodity Classic in Houston.
We've got so many participants here. We actually have 2 floors of trade show. Just some of the preliminary numbers, we've got over 430 companies that are going to be exhibiting, which that is a record. We've got over 3,300 booths sold out. We're sold out on both floors. So, I mean, it's been a great collaboration of everybody working together, and we're going to have a great trade show as part of the Commodity Class. It's a great show. It's a place where you can go there and talk to the machinery companies, and you have experts there for that. You've got experts from our chemical and seed companies there. So it's just a great place to get a lot of information and working with them. One of the excitement for their side is they want to talk to the farmers that are decision makers. And frankly, we want to talk to the people that are at the company, some of the engineers and the marketing people that really have the knowledge and you can talk to about some of the new technology that's coming. We've got a lot of issues going on. Obviously, Farm Bill has been the National Corn Growers this year's number one priority. I mean, we've got an extension, but we want a permanent farm bill or a farm bill for the next 5 years, not just an extension. Some of that farm bill we're working on now, obviously, is risk management. Crop insurance is very important. We're also talking about, MAP and FMD funding. Exports are very important, especially right now with where the prices are at. Some of the other priorities, basically having an update on our base acres with this is one of our priorities this year with the Farm Bill. So we've got a lot of things going on there, and obviously still working with conservation volunteer programs. I mean, them are the priorities when we look at Farm Bill.
Hartman from Waterloo also serves as first vice president of the National Corn Growers Association. The Commodity Classic runs Wednesday through Saturday this week in Houston. The OSF Healthcare Cancer Institute in Peoria is set to be one of 10 locations in the country to begin using a new kind of biopsy. The so-called liquid biopsy is a first of its kind way of diagnosing pancreatic cancer. It's also the start of a database of pancreatic cancer patients that could lead to further breakthroughs in diagnosis and treatment, as OSF Healthcare physician Chandler Wilfong explains.
We have public participation in our board.
There are a couple of different functions for the study. One of the main functions of the study is to create a national database of patients who we believe to be at high risk for pancreatic cancer, so that we have more ability, not here alone, but across the country, to study these patients who are at risk to develop pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer is the 4th leading cancer killer among adults in the United States. USDA's top economist says the nation's farm sector is in a good position to handle a possible low-income year. Gary Crawford has this report.
It doesn't seem to matter what commodity you're producing or where you're producing it. It's going to be a down year relative to 2023.
USDA's chief economist Seth Myers comments as he reviewed USDA's first farm income forecast for 2024. It's projecting net cash farm income to come in at $121.7 billion, which would be a 24% drop from last year. Here's how it shakes out. First,
you have receipts for crops and livestock coming down largely through falling prices, but you have input expenditures continuing to rise.
Production expenses projected to rise slightly, up by 2%.
Yes, it's a small increase, but they're moving in the opposite direction of the output prices, which is really trimming margins for producers and what is giving you that much lower farm income.
Income which could fall below the average of the last 20 years. Now, if you view above average as a good year and below as a bad one,
this one may be slightly into the bad year category.
With, as we said, farm profits falling as much as 25% below 2023.
But the sector as a whole seems better positioned after 3 good years to weather a bad year.
Several reasons for that. First,
strong farm income in 22 and even into 23 is translated into well below average bankruptcies, a decline in the debt service ratio being basically a ratio that looks at how much of your production or your revenue is ending up going to service your debt.
And also, of course,
producers are used to needing to find ways to smooth income from year to year.
And Seth Meyer says hopefully during the last couple of good income years, producers have done some smoothing, setting aside some money to get through what could be a low income year this year. But he says producers will also need to keep close tabs on costs and
refocus on what inputs am I putting on my crop for 450 corn versus 650 corn. And so I think we'll see some producers try to make some adjustments in that way. As we do every time, producers say, what's economically viable for these inputs based upon the output price I might expect.
And of course,
watching your marketing will be another important element this year.
Very important. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Did USDA's first look at the 2024 total meat production show an increase over the previous year, which recorded a year-over-year production decline? Rod Bain has this analysis.
Last year was the first time since 2014 that total U.S. meat production did not record a year-over-year increase. Will that trend continue in 2024? As USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam explained at this year's Ag Outlook Forum,
when we're talking about the total meat sector, we're talking about very, very small growth, less than 0.1%, taking us up to about just shy of 107 million pounds.
In terms of expected production by meat category,
basically what we're looking at is declining beef and turkey production, but increases in pork and broiler meat. Most of these are not very large changes, with the exception of beef.
That due to the impacts of multi-year drought on cattle supplies. The expected decline in turkey production this year is associated with a period of weak prices and effects from a recent outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza the past few months. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
News time is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. And the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. High school basketball postseason action continues on this week. It's sectional action for high school boys and super sectional action last night for the girls, a local team making its second straight trip to Redbird Arena for this weekend's girls state finals. That in sports next.
With SRN News, I'm Rev Thomason. The polls are open in Michigan. Voters casting ballots in the local presidential primary for the Democrats. President Biden is facing a challenge from those dissatisfied with his response to the Israel-Hamas war. They've been urging voters to cast uncommitted ballots. No plans for boots on the ground in Ukraine. That, according to the NATO Secretary General. This after the French president refused to rule out the possibility of Western troops winding up in Ukraine. President Biden meets at the White House this week with top congressional leaders, pressing for quick action to avoid a looming government shutdown. He also wants to send more money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. February's end is bringing some extreme weather to much of the U.S. The Northwest has gotten snow, even as the Midwest gets a taste of summer. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 27 points. More details, srnnews.com.
Are you tired of the...
With SRN Sports, I'm Michael Harrington. We start with the NBA and the Heat, who displayed their resourcefulness last night with a win at Sacramento.
Miami was missing some key players, but that didn't stop it from beating the Kings 121-110. Minus the suspended Jimmy Butler and the injured Tyler Hero, Heat coach Eric Spoelstra wasn't surprised his team came through.
We have guys that love competition and love these kind of scenarios. And look, these are rotation guys, so don't undersell them at all.
Among those who stepped up were Bam Adebayo with a team-high 28 points, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. had 26. The Heat have won 4 straight, while Sacramento's 3-game win streak came to a halt. I'm Bruce Morton.
Also yesterday, it was the Nets over Memphis 111-86. The Knicks beat Detroit 113-111. Toronto over the Pacers. This is SRN Sports. Moving on to college basketball, number 9 North Carolina beat Miami 75-71 last night. Number 15 Baylor over TCU 62-54. Duke coach John Shire wants the Atlantic Coast Conference to implement measures to prevent court storming after his big man Kyle Filipowski was hobbled following a collision with a fan during a weekend loss at Wake Forest. Filipowski a little sore after the incident, had a bag of ice on his leg after banging into a fan. Shire says the policy needs to be put in place now before somebody gets badly hurt. Major League Baseball news, the Twins acquired outfielder Manuel Margot, minor league shortstop Ray Doncon, and cash from the LA Dodgers for a minor league shortstop, Noah Miller. In conjunction with the trade, the Dodgers announced a $4 million one-year contract to keep Kiki Hernandez. In the National Hockey League yesterday, it was the Capitals over the Senators 6-3, Islanders 3, and Dallas 2. This is SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. The high school basketball postseason rolls on tonight. Class 1A boys basketball sectional semifinal action from the Salt Fork sectional. Hayworth battles Decatur St. Teresa at 6 o'clock. Then it's Champaign St. Thomas More and Lexington at 7:30. Tonight from the Effingham St. Anthony sectional, Arcola takes on Blueford Weber at 6 o'clock. 2A boys basketball sectional semifinal action tonight. From the Beardstown sectional, Pleasant Plains battles Alton Marquette. Tonight from Canton, Peoria Notre Dame takes on Taylor Ridge Rockridge. From the Clifton Central sectional, Fieldcrest takes on Mantino at 7. And from the Shelbyville sectional, it's Flora and St. Joe Ogden tonight at 7. Class 3A boys basketball sectional semifinal action tonight. From the Lincoln sectional, Decatur MacArthur takes on Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin at 7 o'clock. And tonight in Pontiac, it's Metamora and LaSalle Peru at 7. Class 4A boys basketball sectional semifinal action tonight. From the Pekin sectional, Normal Community takes on Moline at 7. Class 3A girls basketball super sectional action from Monday. From the Highland sectional, the hosts fell to Chatham Glenwood 45-38. And from the LaSalle Peru sectional, Lincoln dispatches Dixon 46-24. It's the second straight state appearance for Lincoln. The NASCAR season is underway with 38 races to determine another stock car racing champ in the 76th season of the Top Motorsports Series in the U.S., but a serious problem for NASCAR and its teams. Negotiations on a new revenue-sharing model have deteriorated. In mid-February, representatives from 5 teams told the Associated Press they have hired top antitrust sports attorney Jeffrey Kessler as an advisor. The move was a power play by the 15 teams holding the 36 charters that guarantee entry into every race, a message they will not be bullied in the negotiations. The charters are the equivalent of having a franchise with NASCAR, but they are not permanent and can be revoked by the series. Their value is set by the current market rate, but the details are not disclosed. A charter purchased by Spire Motorsports last year was sold by Live Fast Motorsports, reportedly for $40 million, an enormous jump from the $6 million Spire spent in 2018 when it became the first team to buy a charter from another team. NASCAR determines which teams receive charters in 2016. There are 4 charters that have have not been offered for sale and are on hold by NASCAR for use if a fourth manufacturer enters the Cup Series. The current agreement expires at the end of the season, and teams have been trying for 2 years to get a better deal from NASCAR, including making the charters permanent. NASCAR claimed it needed to first complete a new media rights package, and a new $7.7 billion TV rights deal was announced in December. NASCAR's economic offer to the teams came shortly after. The stability of NASCAR has ebbed and flowed for years, which much was made about empty seats in the stands or viewership for the season. The series has weathered it all, and a TV deal is considered substantial. A recent S&P Global Ratings report sees ongoing strength in live attendance, sponsorship, and advertising-related revenue for NASCAR this year, and added the new rights deal provides good revenue visibility through 2031. The report also raised its rating on NASCAR's credit, citing the series' ability to pay down debt while still growing revenue. S&P expects NASCAR to see 6 to 8% growth this year in its earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, a standard accounting measurement. S&P also expects a positive cash flow of $135 to $145 million, which could be reduced to $85 million after infrastructure upgrades. That could be used to further trim its debt. Polk notes the report provides NASCAR it's financially stable and has had little trouble paying down the nearly $1.5 billion it borrowed in 2019 to take its racetracks private. The teams want more, though, than just larger financial stakes. In addition to an increase in the percentage the teams receive from the media rights deal, the teams want the charters to become permanent, and the way the franchises are in other leagues. With so many of NASCAR's top team owners in their 70s, Roger Penske even turned 87 last week. They want their investments to become legacies they can leave to their families. NASCAR has refused to even consider making the charters permanent. The teams also want a seat at the table when it comes to governance, and they want to create a collaborative environment to create new revenue opportunities. NASCAR could remake the entire eligibility system and write its own rules for distribution of revenue. NASCAR does not have a collective bargaining agreement for teams, and even though the RTA was formed to fight this battle, it is not a union. The teams could make an antitrust challenge on NASCAR's control of the market and argue NASCAR operates stock car racing as a monopoly, but NASCAR has won legal battles before, including a 2009 case in which Kentucky Speedway failed to prove its denial to host a Cup Series race constituted an illegal monopoly. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Cloudy skies expected today with a slight chance of thunderstorms. Highs level off around 77. Winds out of the south 10 to 20 miles per hour. Mixed precipitation possible at times. Tonight, lows dip down to about 22. Cloudy skies expected. A dusting of snow tonight. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Currently 55.
From the Country Financial Studio, I'm Rita Frazier. This is the RFD Livestock Report. We're with Tasha Bunting, Livestock Director here at the IFB. One note from last week, you were waiting on news of the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, DMC. You got that news last week. What do we know?
We did. So we were happy to hear that the DMC coverage will open up on Wednesday. So that'd be on February 28th. Dairy producers can enroll for their 2024 dairy margin coverage, which is a huge tool that's important to them, especially at a time when milk prices aren't super great right now. And it's a great tool for our dairy producers to kind of help give them a little bit of a safety net and keep them from maybe facing some of those hardships with low prices right now.
So we were talking with you about this, the waiting back at Dairy Summit up in Freeport just a couple of weeks ago. So good that the news came